I'm AJ Green. You're watching NFL in London.
Hey everybody, NFL in London. It's Wade and Ryan here. Week 17 in the NFL. Only 2 weeks
The
left.
penultimate,
Penultimate
penultimate,
for some people
which
who
is a
are.
word I found out living here. I didn't know what it meant until I moved here, and people kept saying it all the time.
Yeah,
Second to last for those of
second.
you who don't know.
Well, I guess they're used
Or
to that. Britain's used to that in a lot of sports. In
yeah,
Canada,
or how you always finish in all your tournaments.
yeah, exactly. Speaking of tournaments, yeah, you're. Some people are still in their fantasy finals for some
Good.
people. Ryan is in one of ours. He's in a fantasy final.
I'm in two out of my three leagues. I'm in the championship. I'm
Wow.
quite happy. I'm favored to lose in both of them,
Okay.
but I feel good. I feel good about my guys. I've had a lot of COVID issues that I somehow managed to escape and win, even though with the COVID issues. But they're all going to come back. With
Okay.
their one lung intact, ready to go. I'm ready. I'm
Yeah.
ready
Well, I
the
mean, we
problem
talk.
is,
Yeah.
in our league is I'm going up against Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, which
Hmm.
is infuriating for me. So to watch, if I'm going to lose to anyone though, I'm happy. I still don't want to lose, but
Yeah.
I hope Josh Allen has a good game.
Well, I'm in a lot of consolation finals. If that's any good, it's nothing like coming fifth. Um, so
No one even cares about those games though.
yeah, we
No one
do.
even cares about
I
those
care about them. The big thing, obviously, is we talk about the injury or the COVID. 170 people thus far, and we still don't have the Saturday reports in where there could be more. It could be over 200 people, definitely out for the game, because a lot of people may not clear the protocol.
Man,
So
and especially with Christmas coming and all this, that's probably like players that went home for Christmas and stuff that could be coming. Like the playoffs could be an absolute shit show.
yeah, it could
Just
be.
it could just be one of those things. Like they're gonna make like a 6-part series out of with all the COVID injuries. It's just like Keanu Reeves came in to
Yeah,
play quarterback.
he did, and he's gonna do. He would do well. He would do really well. Risa Fons was also in that movie. We'll bring him in as the kicker.
Yeah,
Um,
there you go.
but Kirk Cousins, he is out, and so they've
Yes,
got. I think
Cousins is out.
Cousins is out.
Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz is
for
out.
the big game.
There's only two teams that have so far zero players, zero COVIDs, and that's the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City
Because they've
Chiefs.
all, it's because the Bills have all had it now.
Yeah,
Because
Cole
I think
Beasley.
every one of their players.
Cole
Cole
Beasley made out with
Beasley
all their
just
wives, gave it to them all.
absolutely.
But
Yeah.
good for them. But I mean, even they talk about the Packers versus Minnesota. The Packers have 13 guys out.
Yeah,
So
Falcons have 12.
yeah,
There's just tons of it. It's just
there's a
gonna be. It's
lot
just
of them.
you know what? Yeah, the good thing is you just gotta hope you can just survive it in fantasy with your depth. You gotta have that one guy you can pick up. The good thing is if you have to go to the waiver wire, you're really only competing against one other person. Like no one not in the finals should be picking up people off the waiver wires.
Unless someone has been a dick to you, and then you're like, you know what? I'm gonna hit you with a. I'm gonna grab all the good guys.
Yeah.
And that always happens, so that's always a fun thing. But we're going to go through a lot of the games. Obviously, big sad news. I see John Madden, the hero John Madden. I watched the Madden documentary, which has been airing here in North America, and it's just absolutely brilliant. And of course, then he's timing of it, he just dies after that. But what amazing influence, amazing for all of us who learned how to play Madden, and then for any of us who grew up watching the game. Madden was obviously him and Pat Summerall, the standard when it came to football and football broadcasting. Never been the same since. So very sad.
I read one fun fact about John Madden over the last couple of days, and it was that he had a no shitting policy on his bus. Like he
Yeah.
would never let anyone shit in his bus, but he did allow it for one person. I forget who it was. Like I will try and look it up and maybe
Probably
put it
Brett
up
Favre,
somewhere.
because
But
he was enamored with Brett Favre. He
it
always
was someone like that. It was
Yeah.
like it was a big quarterback back in the day.
Mhm.
But I just love how why? Because Madden was probably dropping some
Oh
big.
yeah,
Just no one could do his
just
car.
big
He
semen.
could
Yeah, it was
make
built for him. His big butt. I mean, they're great. He traveled around America, going and visiting. He loves small town restaurants and everything like that. But amazing,
And
amazing.
for all of us that played like Madden to me and to probably you a lot, it was just the video game. To me,
Yeah.
that's how everyone got into football. The Madden video game will never. So he's like a lot of people are saying that he should be on the cover of next year's Madden, and I couldn't think of anything better.
Oh yeah, it
And
should be, and it should be. They're talking about that in an all Madden. I
and
mean,
then that means the Madden curse will have continued because he's dead.
because he's dead,
So
and maybe that'll put an end to the Madden curse. He's finally dead. the curse is over.
The curse is lifted. Yes, the curse could be lifted. This is actually true. The curse could be lifted now.
The curse could be lifted. I like too that there's a lot of people who talk about Madden didn't even know he was a coach. They just thought he was a video game guy. So that's
yeah.
That's
it's just like they just randomly named a video game off some dude.
Yeah,
some dude who just. It's like if they the next one was Joe Buck football.
Yeah,
2023.
Just everyone has a big Joe Buck head. Yeah, it's but it was known as a game. Madden. It's known as Madden. It wasn't known as NFL football game. It was known as Madden. So obviously
it'll always be Madden. In the same way, the Sky Dome will always be the Sky Dome, not the Rogers Center. Yeah, so you can call it whatever you want. It's the Sky Dome,
and for anyone who's not from Canada, that's the really horrible stadium
that's
downtown.
That's where the Blue Jays play, and it's just like it's Madden football. It's not NFL 23.
It is not. Well, we got some great games going on. Week 17, so much importance going on. There's so many people, and the one thing I always find too is there's a lot of teams when they really need to win, just screw it up, and that's Week 17, baby. And that's
this is first round. This is technically, if you think about it, this is first round of the playoffs for a lot of games. If you think about what's going to happen or what you need to happen, like you got some massive games coming up, and it's win or go home for a lot of teams. Like the margin of error is so small considering how many tiebreakers that are going to come in.
Yeah.
It's going to be a wild couple of weeks. I think the NFL has probably never been happier thinking adding this extra week and the extra playoff team and just seeing like, look how many games we're going to have, especially the divisional ones. Like the NFL, the AFC North is just going to be insane.
So many ones, so many important games, and we'll start getting into them. I want to talk about the first one, really exciting AFC game. Miami, who's won 7 straight, and of course have put themselves into a great position. They're 8-7.
They are fun facts. I'm all full of fun facts.
I love the fun facts.
Only team in NFL history to lose 7 games and win 7 games in the same season. What an amazing stat!
It is. It's a great
and a really terrible stat at the same time.
It's terrible that they were able to go that bad and then come back. And for Tua, it's obviously looks good for him because even though he has a horrible offensive line, just bad, they're able to put some stuff together. And that against New Orleans and last week, but this is a whole different game. A whole different game this week. Yeah. You got the Tennessee Titans who are 10-5, who basically relied on AJ Brown last week. That's all it was. It's like just throw it to AJ Brown. Could not get the running game going. But this is going to be a tight game because Miami obviously needs it. Tennessee's 10-5. They're 3.5-point favorites in this one. The low 39.5 over under.
Let me lose you for a second. No, listen. What I'll say about Miami is it just feels like the last 7 games, like they played the Giants. Like it's been just a disaster of teams of Ian Book, quarterback. So they've been able to put in. So if I'm the Dolphins, like I'm not thinking, wow, Tua's really put it together. Like he still only threw for like 190 yards against the Saints. He was not lighting it up. You have Duke Johnson coming. It just feels like to me the Titans now just feeling that they gotta win this to put this like behind them. I think the Dolphins have really coasted, and I think they're in for a rude awakening because Vrabel's going to be putting some pressure on Tua, and Tua's going to struggle. I think AJ Brown, like you said, was just throw it to AJ Brown. Just that should be your only strategy, like that Fresh Prince episode. Just pass it to Will.
Just give it to him.
Let him shoot and just give it to him because there's no one else on your team that's going to move the ball. And he was unreal the last couple of weeks. So I think the Miami's just had too many easy opponents. I think they're going to walk into this place thinking like feeling themselves, but they're in for a rude awakening. I think the Titans win this. I think the Dolphins it's been a good little story of them coming back, but I think just Tua's now it's going to be like, oh wait, maybe Tua's not the guy for next year. So I'm going to go with the Titans to win 23-16.
Yeah, I've got the Titans to win, but I actually think, because Miami's got Waddle back, Tennessee really still sucks at defending passes. They can get really broken open by some wide receivers. So I think this game could be close, but I think Tennessee again needs to win this one. I think Miami will probably put on some late heroics, but Tennessee even struggled to score last week until they got AJ Brown going. Tannehill just looked lost, and the running game just got stuffed. And Miami's not bad at stuff in the run. I've got it 21-18. I think Miami will cover, but just by 0.5. It's a 3.5 point spread, but I think it's
the spread 3.5.
3.5. I had it at. 39.5 over under. I think it'll be a close game. We'll move on to your next game. It is a game I don't think is going to be close at all. It's the Atlanta Falcons, who are 7-8, close enough to sniffing the playoffs, versus the Buffalo Bills, 9-6. Buffalo 14.5 point over under. This line has been moved quite a bit. 44 is the over under in this one. Buffalo defense. Let's just talk about that one. Only Tom Brady has been able to really do anything and score some points against this Buffalo defense. He's the only one. And Buffalo's sort of winning without a running game. So, Atlanta to me it's just been too much, man. The 7-8. I think those 7-8, the 7 wins a lot of them came against really easy opponents. So this is gonna be a tough game because Buffalo really needs to keep winning at home.
Yeah, the thing is, the Falcons have done really well in close games this year, but they're also, even though they're 7-8, they're like in point differential, they're like minus 120. Like it's one of the weirdest 7-8 teams. Like they should be absolutely not anywhere in contention with that type of plus minus. The Bills coming off of that game last week, like Josh Allen was like otherworldly, just going around doing everything in his power to win that game. I think the Bills have now just said, you know what, let's just let this guy, put him on his back. Let's let him carry us, because this is where you need to get hot. You need to get that. And that win at the Patriots was so big for just their mental health, my mental health personally, and their players. So I just think with too many COVID things going on in the Falcons, the Bills' pass defense can shut down anyone. So the only thing you have to worry about is Cordell Patterson, who I think, they can keep contained and not just be like, this guy's going to break the game open. They'll be able to take away Pitts. I think the Bills just at home, it's in the cold, it's going to be too much for them. I think they're going to win it quite easily. I'm going to say 33 to 20. No, to 17. I'm going to say they're going to cover.
17. You got more points than that. You got 17 to cover. I think I could see Atlanta maybe not even scoring at all. I've got them with getting 9 points, only field goals, no touchdowns. I got 28-9. Buffalo beating them. The weather's going to be cold. We've had some. I don't know if you've seen the weather in North America. It's been weird because in Vancouver in western part of Canada, or in even North America, it's like the coldest it's ever been. But Kodiak Island, which is right off the coast of Alaska, was 20 degrees yesterday Celsius.
Yeah, I did.
And minus 20. So we've got this real vortex, which apparently the Green Bay game is going to be extremely cold as well. The weather is actually just weird and cold. So I think it's going to be cold. I think Atlanta's not going to deal with it. I've got it 28-9. I don't think Atlanta will score any touchdowns. It's just going to be field goals. It's going to be a beating. Speaking of beatings, Bill Belichick.
By the way, the Falcons, in my bet last week, the Falcons were the team that screwed my bet over. I couldn't win by a touchdown against a Tim Boyle-led Detroit team. So I might be just betting out of spite now.
Yeah, well, you know what? I was big on Detroit, and I was big on the Bears. And I called the Bears to win, and they won. But that's a different one. The Bears won. Snowballs for the Seahawks. But let's go to this one because it's Bill Belichick, and he's got a rookie quarterback, which he loves. Trevor Lawrence, man, I guess the Christmas present that he wanted, he got, which was being with the Jacksonville Jaguars. But, it's New England. Now, the line in this one it was 16.5, which at first you go, New England 16.5, but then you remember that they beat Cleveland by 38. They beat Tennessee by 23. So Jacksonville, going into a very frigid, Gillette Stadium, I think it's going to be very, very difficult for Jacksonville. And you sort of go, what's their motivation at this point? So, obviously New England at 9-6.
Yeah, they lost Robinson for the year now, so they don't even have him. I think you have the Patriots coming after getting 33 put on them. The first time in Bill Belichick's career as a Patriots coach that they didn't force a punt, which is just an unbelievable stat. So I think that defense is going to become angry, which is luckily, my fantasy defense for my championship in one of them. So I'm very excited to see what they do to Trevor Lawrence. I think Belichick's going to be pissed. I think Mac Jones, who looked just really average, again, we've seen this. He just doesn't have the weapons. You could say Kendrick Bourne, Aguilar was out, but they got, Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. There's just not, they just got to basically do what they do and give it to Damian Harris. Just be a running team. Be like that was your identity. Because Mac Jones, if he falls behind, it's hard for him. We saw that the last couple of weeks. So, but I think just looking on the other side, I think Jacksonville's just like, get me out of this. We got 2 weeks left. I'm out. Like, I'm just not going to get injured. There's going to be a lot of just throw it away. Yeah. Don't get me hurt. A lot of soft tackles. So
I got to shoot a commercial. I got to shoot a commercial in a few weeks. Don't in my face.
Just like a beat down on them. And to be honest with you, I think this is going to be something like I'm gonna say 29-3.
Oh, same with
And
me.
I wanted to say shutout. I wanted to say shutout because I actually think they're gonna shut him out.
I have a shutout. I've
So
got
I'm
a
gonna go 29-0.
Okay.
I'm gonna say 20. I'm gonna change
I've
it.
got it 23-0. I don't think they'll score a
Yeah.
point. I think Bill Belichick is just going to erase him. He's going to chase him. And as you say, that Patriots defense, which has just been so dominant, now has a chance to feast. And they're going to feast on this Jacksonville Trevor Lawrence. Again, with no running game, it's just going to be a beatdown. Poor
They have
old
no passing
Jacksonville.
game. They actually have nothing. It's
Yeah.
gonna be an absolute nightmare.
But they will have
for
a
Trevor
first
Lawrence.
round pick again because they're so bad.
Yeah, they're gonna have.
But how many first round picks you get and you still can't put together a winning team? You know, it's
Well, that's the Jets. That's the Jets. They've been really good run at that. So,
another big AFC contest we've got going on is the 8-7 Las Vegas Raiders, who have been running out of gas but still keep themselves in the playoffs. They're facing an Indianapolis Colts team who's 9-6, missing Carson Wentz. 7.5 point favorites for the Colts. Surprisingly, 44 points.
wow, that's gotta change now. That line has to change. It can't still be 7.5.
We'll have to
with
keep
no
checking.
Carson Wentz.
Yeah,
I would imagine it changed because there's just no way. Like I don't even know who the backup quarterback is. It's going to be a pure, like, and the worst part is I'm going against Jonathan Taylor in the championship with no Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
It's going to be just, but hopefully the Raiders are smart. They put 8 in the box. Don't let Jonathan Taylor beat you. That has to be their strategy. They're 8-7. They can sneak into that last spot, especially if you got Miami with the tough game. Cleveland lost last week. Baltimore's got a tough game this week and have no weapons. So I think the Raiders, this is a huge opportunity for Derek Carr to sneak them into the playoffs. A great story after the Ruggs and the Gruden thing for them to get the first round and then lose by 30, which will probably be what happens. But at least they sneak in. I'm going to go with the Raiders to win this just because Wentz is out. Again, we saw the Raiders. They could barely beat the Cleveland team a couple weeks ago with no players. I think Carr is just going to do enough to win. Jacobs has looked really consistent, been the only consistent Raider, even with Waller out. So I'm going to say it's going to be a close game. It's not going to be a very high scoring game, but I'm going to say 20-14 for the Raiders.
I agree with you. It's going to be a close game, but to me, the definitive factor is going to be that the defense and the offensive line of the Colts. It's just going to be very difficult. They know that they've got to keep playing, and I think everyone's going to step as a result. Jonathan Taylor. I think Vegas is going to be crazy. They're going to try to keep it close. The line has switched from 7.5 to 7. I've got it 6 points. I've got Colts winning 24-18. I think they still win. Raiders have just lost so much, and they've lost so much gas.
They still won against Denver. I think every time
they still won against Denver, but it's getting that running game going. So they weren't able to stop the run, which was a very difficult thing. Denver was able to run all over them, and I think Jonathan Taylor is going to do that to them. I've got it 24-18. I think it's just too much. They've lost so many guys, and they're going to try to erase Hunter Renfrew. Moving on to one of the biggest spreads of the week, another big one. Sorry, it's Tampa Bay. 13-point favorites are 11-4 facing the Jets. And Zach Wilson, player of the week last week. 4-11. He had some good scrambles. They're 4-11. They're 45.5 points. Total is a spread, but it's 13-point favorites for the Bucks. They've lost a lot of. Obviously, Tom Brady's lost a lot of his wide receivers. He's gonna have AB. He'll have Gronk. It's going to be very difficult. How do the Bucks make a playoff run with a bunch of no names?
Well, again, Antonio Brown, he's still a bit banged up. I'm seeing him that even in this week he hasn't been practicing much. I think Mike Evans has come back, but luckily you're playing the Jets. I think even Tom Brady last week with no weapons was still able to put up 30. They had some nice running game going from Robert Jones. I can't remember who the other guy was. Some new young guy that came in at that 55-yard run at the beginning. To me, this is just the Bucks just had the easiest schedule going into the last week. They were probably thinking they were getting the 1 seed, but I think the Packers getting lucky with Kirk Cousins being out. It's going to be huge for them. So I think that they're not going to have the 1 seed. They're going to have a game, I think, for the first week, and they need to get healthy and they need to get their offense moving. So I would think a big Gronk game would be in play, but again, you can't depend on that. He just has been too inconsistent for that. But I think they're just, you're going against the Jets. I think Michael Carter looks great. I think the Jets have a couple nice pieces that if they can draft smart, figure something out, get a good offensive coordinator that could work with Zach Wilson, they can piece this together because he had that nice 55-yard run. He has that athleticism, that you need in today's NFL. So I'm going to go with the Bucs to win this. Obviously, I think they're the better team. Tom Brady's going to do what he does. I'm going to say 28-13. I don't think it'll be that close.
I've got it 30-13, but I agree with you. I really like what I've seen sort of with the Jets this year. In terms of Mitchell, in terms of Carter, I picked a lot of these guys up.
Elijah
Moore. All these guys have sort of come up, and you sort of go, wow, if they have a bit of an offensive line and a defense to keep them in the game, they play some exciting games, and good for Zach Wilson getting his confidence back, which is good. Again, Tampa Bay is just too much. I think Gronk is going to feast in this one. If you got Gronk in fantasy, it'll be a good one. I think he's going to put. I can see 2 touchdowns from Gronk.
He is on my team, so I'm hoping. Fingers crossed.
Well, I've got it 30-13 in terms of this one. Big game, but not a big spread in this next one. The LA Rams are 11-4. Matt Stafford, still his back injuries. I mean, he was able to, but he had 3 interceptions against the Vikings last week. They're facing the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore Ravens should maybe have Lamar Jackson back. They're 8-7. The Rams are favored by 3.5. The over/under is 47 points. The weather is, again, Baltimore East Coast. Could be pretty nasty in this one. So you have to look at terms of, Joe Burrow putting up 500 yards last week against them.
Bad game, but that decimated defense. So it's almost inexcusable for Stafford. The problem is all the people that had Stafford in fantasy last week probably lost their game because of how badly he played.
I played Hurts. I had Hurts and Stafford on my team, and I switched. I was like, no, I'm taking Hurts.
Yeah, it was just a bad day for that. Like, even though they did win because they were playing a terrible team, but yes, something just doesn't look right with Stafford. I think he's gonna be able to pull this off. I think they're the better team. They should be able to win this easily. But again, Sony Michel's looked really good for them. They they got Akers coming back. They got the weapons, but who'd have thought that the biggest question mark of this team would be Stafford going into the end, because he's the guy that's Cooper Kupp's going to do his thing. Sony Michel's the leading rusher in December. So I'm going to go with the Rams to win. I just think they're the better team. I'm going to go 27-20.
I've got the Rams to win, but only by 1 point. I got it 26-25. I think it's going to be a great game. It is, Matt Stafford, when you say about carrying the team on his back, when you got a bad back, it's hard to carry the team. And it does seem like he's missing something. He doesn't, he's not being able to the same zip. He seems like he's just sort of struggling when he's going. So I really like the Baltimore Ravens to bounce back, because after taking that beating last week, you get some of your guys back, you get a bit healthy, you realize at home, you're 8-7. You lose in this one, man, and it's your chances. Well, you really drop down.
Because you have Pittsburgh playing Cleveland, so that could be big. You have we'll get to the next one. We have Bengals at Kansas City, which is going to be really tough. So the NFC North could be this insane thing where all 4 teams have a chance to win the division in the week 18. Yeah. What ridiculous! That's almost hard to even imagine that could be the case, but who knows? Oh, yeah, and I just think Baltimore, to me, just feels like that team. If Lamar doesn't play, they're just going to free fall right out of the playoffs completely.
Yeah, they've got to put something together here. And to me, it's just the definitiveness of the Rams to really stand out here and make a big impact. I think it's going to struggle with them. I think that they need to win, but Baltimore is hungrier on this one. So I've got the Rams to win by 1 point, 26-25. I think it's going to go down to the wire. But also that weather is going to play. If it's going to be really cold in the East Coast like it's supposed to be on Sunday, I'll be back in England, so it doesn't really matter. But it's going to be cold. So I've got it 26-25. Big NFC North divisional battle in this one. The last time these two guys faced, Philadelphia, who was 8-7, versus Washington 6-9. They put up 500 yards on Washington, but it's a different team this time. Washington's got a lot of their guys back. It's 3.5 point favorites in this one. 45 points is the over/under in it. It's a must-win game for Philly. They just have to win this one. At 8-7.
Washington's been it's just really kind of fallen apart. Terry McLaurin can't do anything. It just feels like the offense has gone apart. The defense can't do anything. Even Philly, they won that game last week, but it took them forever to get going. By halftime, it was 3-0. Mm-hmm. Just felt like they couldn't. And Philly's just one of those teams. I think it's just no matter what Jalen Hurts does, you can take him to the playoffs. He's still gonna probably be replaced. I think he's just going to be that guy fighting for his life for the next. He's going to be like a Minshew, the new Minshew.
Well, I've read an interesting thing that there's Minnesota is working out a deal to get him and bring him to the team. Yeah.
I think Philly's just the better team. I think Heineke has just shown that as the season's gone on, it's just he's not making plays like he used to. Terry McLaurin could do nothing. To me, Philly's the better team, the better defense. They can run it better. They got better weapons. And so I'm gonna go with Philly to win this 27-17.
I'm calling an upset in this one. I got Washington to win it. Only because Philly really needs to win this one. And I was just saying at the start of the podcast, there's that thing where people really need to win and they screw up. I just see them screwing this up. As a Bears fan, I sort of look at Philadelphia. I've been liking them this year, and I'm like, they're going to screw it up. It's the pressure's on. Washington's going to come back after being defeated by 500 yards by them last time and getting beaten down. Obviously, the beating from the Cowboys, resonates. When Dak wasn't even that good, it was their defense. So I like Washington to come back. They played sort of some desperate play, and as you say, Philadelphia really struggled to score last week. So I like Washington to sort of come in. They're at home. The weather's going to be crap. I think that it's going to be very difficult to pass the ball. Hurts hasn't been passing that much anyway. I've got it 21-20, and I see Philadelphia missing a kick, and that puts the end for it. So I've got Washington to win by 1 point. Just because you got to win, and sometimes people screw it up. Their other the rivals, the New York Giants, are 4-11, and Mike Glennon is going to be back because Jake Fromm was horrible. But they're facing the Bears, the 5-10 Bears, and guess what, fans? Bears are 6.5-point favorites. What? Well, what? 6.5-point favorites to the Bears and a 37-point over/under. Again, Chicago is going to be cold. It's going to be nasty. Lots of snow going on. Barkley might be back.
Is Foles still playing?
Foles is supposed to be coming back, and Foles didn't look that bad. He was able to hand the ball off. It was a David Montgomery show, but
we all know Foles off the bench is what you want. That's easy. He should never start. You just bring him on in the second quarter, bring him in, let him do his thing. I think the Bears are the better team. I think they're going to be able to win this. I think Foles just adds a little something different. I think he's just got
Super Bowl champ.
Super Bowl, yeah, you know what I mean? Like he's got to have that thing that no one else on the team seems to have. So I think they're the better team. I think the Giants are just completely given up. I think Gettleman knows he's gone. Joe Judge, but even it's weird because they were just like Daniel Jones is going to be the quarterback next year. So it's like, you guess you have to have a GM who's willing to accept all this. So who knows what's going to happen? I don't think it's a smart move to say, but then again, maybe they're doing that because they're going to make a play for Russell Wilson, which is the big play everyone thinks they're going to do. But I think the Giants for now just want that good draft pick, so they're going to get toast. I think the Bears win this 23-13. I think they cover.
I just can't have any faith in us covering. 6.5 points. I'm like, do you know my Bears? If Mike Glennon is going to be playing, he's way better than Jake Fromm, and obviously he knows the Bears, so been on the team. So I think it's going to be a David Montgomery show. Obviously, the Bears should just hand it off. But Nagy, with this kind of favorite, he could just screw it up. I've got Chicago winning, but only by 3.
It's one of the last games. He's going to go wild. It's going to be like a wild card, just throwing out trick plays left and right.
Yeah, and that New York defense will pick up on him. 21-18, I think the Bears win. It's going to be close. It's going to be a game of field goal, a boring game in the cold. We mentioned this other game. It's the last of our 6 o'clock games in the UK, 1 o'clock in the Eastern time. Kansas City, 5-point favorites. They're 11-4. They're the leaders in the division. Facing Cincinnati, or 9-6. 9-6 Cincinnati. 54 points is the over/under in this one. Or sorry, 49 is the over/under. But you got to look at this Cincinnati team who put up a lot of points. Everyone was going, what's happening to Joe Burrow? They've had a great year in terms of Joe Mixon putting together Joe Burrow. But Kansas City, they're winning. The defense is winning. Patrick Mahomes sort of got on form last week, but can he continue the form against the Cincinnati D this week?
Yeah, it still feels like, even though everyone's kind of crowned Kansas City as the team that's going back to the Super Bowl because they've won, then the defense has been much, much better. There's no doubt about that. But they did lose Edwards-Helaire to a shoulder injury. Kelsey did have COVID, so he's coming back. I think this is going to be a tough game for them. I think the Bengals, even though Joe Burrow's 500 yards was against literally like a high school team.
Yeah.
Like that's keep it into perspective. Like he dominated, but again, when you have T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Mixon, and Joe Burrow, it's such a strong foundation for your future. Like if you're Cincinnati, no matter what, this year you got to feel like we got our quarterback. This is like Carson Palmer before his knee blew out, even though they've had that, but Carson Palmer stayed and was excellent. So. Man, I think I really want to pick Cincinnati to win this. You know what? I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go with an upset on this. I just think yes, the Chiefs have been better, but I think the Chiefs haven't had to go up against a juggernaut offense, a guy like Joe Burrow with Jamar Chase. And that I think they've had a really kind of offensive teams that just haven't really found their identity, or they've really struggled. So I'm going to go with the Bengals to pull this off, I think, because they know they have the division right there. They got to win this. So, because if they lose this, who knows? They could go from division leaders to out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with them to win this. Joe Burrow, I believe in him. So I'm going to go 30-27. Bengals win.
I've got it 30-28, but I got it for the Chiefs. Just because, the way Mahomes sort of can pull it together, their defenses, I think it's going to be a back and forth great game. Again, I was sort of vacillating between Bengals and Chiefs, but I had to go with the Chiefs in this one. I just think they've got the more momentum going. They've really been putting it together. But again, a tight game. It's going to be very exciting. 30-28, I've got this one. We then move into the 4 o'clock games, 9 o'clock in the UK. Of course, you're going to join us at the Sports Bar and Grill, Old Street. Lots of the games, all the games on Red Zone. And they've also got the Clapham games as well if you want to watch it there. Big game, of course, it'll be on one of the TVs or many TVs in the Sports Bar. There's over 50 TVs. You can watch it. Denver Broncos, 7-8 at the LA Chargers, 8-7. Chargers are 6.5-point favorites. Now, let's not forget the Chargers got Rex Burkheaded last week. Yeah. Rex Burkhead made every DraftKings owner just go, oh my.
Well, first of all, what, all 3 of them? And how many people think Rex Burkhead's family are the only people that probably... No one was putting Burkhead in against that team.
It's like, I'll get Burkhead for $3,000. That's probably cheap. But he made them look... David Mills made them look good. I mean, very tough for the Chargers to take a loss, overlooking an opponent. Let's just talk about that.
Well, not even overlooking. They had COVID problems. They lost Mike Williams. They lost Austin Eckler. Derwin James is injured. They have no defense. Joey Bosa was out with COVID. It was literally, they lost every important player on their team almost except for Herbert. So, and he really struggled that game. Mm-hmm. He was not good. I expect him to bounce back, but it was just such a weird one to play. Like, I think even Keenan Allen only had 20 yards. It just didn't feel like. What do you think of this game?
All right. Well, look, the Chargers really showed me last week that they suck against the run. I mean, Rex Burkhead looked absolutely stellar.
They've been that all year.
So you've got 2 great running backs on Denver. Melvin Gordon's been looking good, even though second, but nothing like the running backs they've got.
So, Javonte Williams,
Javonte Williams,
Javonte Williams day, and then it never shows up. And that's the problem with having those 2 as your running backs in fantasy, especially, is that's been Denver's problem for years. It feels like no matter what position it is, it's quarterback with switching. There's no consistency, and the team just feels like it's always in flux.
I still think the running backs are better suited in this game. And the Chargers, I think they'll win. I've got them winning 26-23. It's a 6.5-point favorite spread. But just the running game. Denver's going to have looked at how the Houston Texans took it to them last week and go, just keep running up the middle, keep running it. Give Teddy a chance to then throw the ball around. So I like this one, 26-23.
Yeah, I'm going to go 24-21 Chargers. I just think, I think after that loss last week, when teams lose to games like again, when every team's had that really bad loss this year, it feels like you got to bounce back after those. If you lose this again, they're out of the playoffs. They're done, I think. So this is like literally, this is a playoff game for the Chargers, and Herbert's got to step up.
And you got Denver 7-8. They obviously know they can cause some havoc here as well. So they will step up. It's going to be a tight one. I got it 26-23. Speaking of the Texans, Houston 4-11, better than the Jaguars. Davis Mills, ray of sunshine. He's been playing not bad. Considering all the Deshaun Watson that's been hanging over the team. This has been all right. Now you've got them. Jimmy G looks like he's going to be the first start for Trey Lance because Jimmy G injured bone in his hand. Trey Lance coming back. So this is going to be interesting as his first start. The 49ers, who are 8-7, are 12.5-point favorites in this one with the 44-point over-under. This is obviously for the 49ers. Got to keep winning. You got to get this separation. You're in a tough division here. And for Trey Lance, this is a great audition. Maybe he can find Kittle. Maybe he can get some use going. And maybe they can get the running game going and really cause some havoc here for the Houston Texans.
Yeah, because it was such a disappointing game for them last week, considering how well they've been playing. And then to let Tennessee just come and let AJ Brown do whatever you want against them. They're just, again, since Elijah Mitchell's been out, like they've really missed that explosiveness at running back. Kittle didn't really do nothing. He just had that Jimmy G game where he looks good, but then he messes it up at the end. So this is now Trey Lance's chance to say, see you later, Jimmy G. This is my team now, especially. But that loss last week was so huge. I think, luckily, they're playing Houston, so they should be able to take care of business. I expect a big game from like Kittle, Deebo Samuel. Basically, play everyone on your San Fran team that you can. I think they win this pretty easily. I'm going to go 30-20. They win this.
I've got it 31-20. I think that 12.5. I think Houston will cover the spread. They'll get some points going. But San Francisco will win it. I just don't see them as a 12.5 point spread coverers.
Not after that last game, especially. It just feels like.
No, and so I've got it 31-20. But San Fran will win. Houston takes another loss, but San Fran in the sunshine should be able to win this one. Big game, this next one. This one will be on Sky Sports. Arizona 10-5 at Dallas 11-4. Cowboys lay a beating last week, but Dak he's all right, but he's not looking great.
No, he had a good game last week, but again, he's been inconsistent this year. The good thing is they're getting a lot of their players back now, Dallas.
And that defense is just disgustingly good, you know.
And now it's looking like they're a really balanced, strong team now. So this is where you have to really crush your opponents, and I think this is a big opportunity for them.
They're 6-point favorites. It's a 51.5 point over under. You look at, they're gonna have the Cardinals are getting James Conner back. It looks like, and then probably another one of their wide receivers. They only put up 16 points last week, and they didn't even commit any turnovers. And you sort of go, Arizona, what are you doing?
Well, it just shows how important Hopkins is. Like, again, AJ Green is fine, but he's not AJ Green of 5 years ago. Kirk and Moore, Ertz is the only guy that he looks for, and just Kyler's just look. And this has been a problem with Cliff Kingsbury's teams for the last 3 years. It's they start hot and then they just tank in December. I think it happened last year. It's happening this year again. And I could see them losing out the rest of the way. Like if they lose the next two, they're going to go limp into the playoffs, maybe even miss it. It would just
10-7. They'd be 10-7 if they lose two more. So that's a tough record to go in with.
And that's looking from going from the 1 seed to the 7 seed in a span of 4 games. And to me, it just feels like they just don't have the weapons. I think Dallas has too many weapons. They're a stronger team it's going to be hard for Kyler to move the ball, especially with Diggs and Micah Parsons. So I'm going with the Cowboys to win this 27-20. I think they're going to win this. And what's the line?
It's 6 points is the spread with a 51-point over.
I like this bet for Dallas.
I've got Arizona. I've got Arizona covered. I've got 28-24 for Dallas, only because I think they've got to get Connor established. Dallas, if you really run at them, the problem is you don't want to throw across the field to Micah Parsons. He really loves interceptions, that guy. So they're going to have to watch out for this. Kyler Murray's going to have to watch. This defense is stellar, but I think they can really try to tame them with the running game, try to keep it in, try to keep the game close. But Dallas is going to be at home. They'll win this 28-24. The big winners, Jared Goff is finally back. Boyle made them look all right last week. Detroit, 2-12-1. Visiting Seattle, 5-10-1. Who obviously, didn't look very good last week. They lost to the Bears. The fans were throwing snowballs at them. Russell Wilson, this could be, one of the last games for the Seattle Seahawks, they're saying. Rashad Penny's been playing well. But you got to wonder what's going to happen here is with Jared Goff coming back, is there a bit of motivation? The Seahawks are favored by 7 with a 42.5 point over-under at home. I'm going to say this right up. I am calling a Detroit upset.
Detroit. Me too. I'm going with it.
Jared Goff.
I think Russell Wilson's done. I think he's packed it in. I think Seattle's in a real bad spot, especially having no first-round pick. I think Goff and Detroit just showed they have some fight in them. Even with Tim Boyle, they kept that game close against Atlanta. So no matter what, Dan Campbell gets his guys to fight. And he may not be the best coach, but he's a pretty good motivator to get these guys to at least be competitive. So, but I like Detroit just to be that kind of sneaky team to just throw it around. I think it's going to be close. I'm going to go 2017.
I've got it close as well. I've got it 23-21. Jared Goff, I think, coming back inspired. He's really starting to fire up this team. They're getting some guys back as well. And just Seattle, it just feels like they're finally missing the playoffs. The whole Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson dream seems to be done. It's like the last Christmas dinner when the parents are getting split. Everyone's sort of like, can I leave the table now? Can I go play with my presents? I don't want to be here. 23-21, I've got this one. Next big game we've got, it could have been good. This one could be quite boring. But it's a Carolina, 3-10. No more Cam. No more Cam.
Yeah,
he's
please,
he's not back.
Please stop it.
At New Orleans.
It's like that Simpsons thing. It's like he's
already dead. Yeah. But you've got New Orleans 7-8. Ian Book, who didn't look good at all. So he's coming back. The offensive line for Carolina is just horrible. To me, New Orleans 7-8. They got to win this one. They're 6.5-point favorites, and Carolina's just lost their luster. It's at home for New Orleans.
I imagine Taysom Hill's back from COVID, right? I imagine he'll be back. I can't imagine it's going to be Ian Book unless they're unvaccinated. They have to be out.
There's no line. It's got Book listed last.
I just think Carolina's bad. I think they have nothing to play for. I think they're going with Darnold. And again, to me, it just doesn't feel like it's going to make any difference. I'm going to go with New Orleans to win this in a really crappy, low-scoring game, 17-14. I just don't think any team has any real offense that can even move the ball. I think they're two good defenses, which is why it'll be a low-scoring game.
Yeah, I've got it the same. I got 21-13. I think New Orleans needs this more. They're obviously still trying to chase the playoffs. Sean Payton is going to be, motivated because he's got to fight off that really horrible movie coming out for him soon.
Yeah.
And I was going to actually go see The American Underdog. It's on the theaters here, but they're not. You can't get like any food at theaters in Canada. Why am I going to go to a movie? I want to pay $40 for popcorn.
Yeah.
So I've got it 21-13 in this one. New Orleans winning it, I think, easily. I can't even see Carolina scoring a touchdown. The offensive line is just so bad. They're just getting pummeled before they can get rid of the ball. The next big game that we have is a night game, which I will not be, try to stay up for. NFC North game as the 7-8 Minnesota Vikings are up the 12-3 Green Bay Packers. Green Bay has a great record, but they're not as offensively strong as you'd think they would be. They've been close. It's been close for a lot of their games, and really needing Aaron Rodgers to keep them in there. And the defense is, the last time these two played, it was very close. And
the thing is, they barely beat a Cleveland team that threw 4 picks. Like they
barely beat the Bears. When they played.
That's what I mean. It hasn't been this like dominant performance. As good as they've been, as good as their defenses look, that there still feels like something's missing on the offense. That they're not able to put up 30 or 40. Like Rodgers,
it's their offensive line.
Even though Rodgers MVP, they're saying he's going to be the MVP, but he's like 3rd or 4th in touchdowns. So he's not. Yeah, he's got the wins, but.
He's not even top 5 in passing, so I
don't really get it, but they have the best record in the NFC. And I think if Kirk Cousins is playing, I could see them winning this. I think Minnesota could have won, but I think the fact that he's out and he's not vaccinated, so there's no chance he's coming back. So I'm going to go with Rodgers to win this pretty easily now, just because of that. I think. I don't even know who their backup is. I don't really care. So
I think it's Kellen Mond. I think the former Aggie.
I'm going to go 27-14 for the Packers.
I still think that Minnesota can really almost take this game, and because of the way they played last week. And the thing has got to be they got Dalvin Cook. They just got to run it. Just keep smashing it up the middle. And the good thing about Mond is rookie. You got this guy who's an Aggie, pretty good. Arm on the kid. I think it's a good chance for him to show up. And obviously Green Bay, they're saying this is going to be possibly the coldest game ever in Green Bay. So that's going to affect a lot of people, I think, in this one. But I think that Minnesota can just get this running game going. I've got it 28-27 for Green Bay. But I think Minnesota will keep it closer than people think. The weather will play a factor in it. But as I said, Minnesota keeps all these games close. And it's not always the Cousins factor as well. But I got a close game, 1-point victory for Packers. But, it could be tight again, and Minnesota could win this one, possibly. Final game we've got, the Monday Nighter, is the Cleveland Browns, 7-8, at Pittsburgh, 7-7-1.
Big Ben Swan.
Big Ben is the final game, 41 points. Browns are favored by 3 in this one. You've got to always favor anytime a quarterback retires at home. Man, they play off their ass.
You gotta go with the emotion of the night.
They play off their ass because they know it's the last game ever, and you don't want to have the game of shame. It's like, remember the last game we played? And we 4 interceptions. So I really
agree. I agree with you. I'm going with the emotion of the night. I think Big Ben deserves it. I think, first of all, he's playing Cleveland. I think Baker's been awful, and they're going to be able to get pressure on him. I can see this will be a big running game. I think Najee Harris and Chubb. It's just Cleveland, stop trying to pass it. Just use Chubb all the time. He was a monster last week, and they just keep throwing it because they want to make Baker into this quarterback that he isn't. And so I'm going to go with Pittsburgh to win it. I think 23-20. I think Big Ben's not really going to do anything special, but I'd love to see him do like a game-winning drive, just get his little wave off because, you know, it's over. It's over now. It's the end of an era.
Yeah, he'll be hitting the big buffet, I think, after this one. I really like the emotional there. And as you're right, Cleveland should just be running it. Whenever they start passing it and forcing these balls, you're like, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing with that? So Pittsburgh, it's at home. It's the big one. I think everyone's going to play, and they know it's like, look, we got to celebrate Ben. Tomlin's going to get these guys fired up. I've got it 26-18. I think Pittsburgh is easily going to beat Cleveland. Cleveland is just going to have to limp off and figure out what the hell they've done. You know, they had a coach of the year, and now they're going in with a losing record and playing off this year. So I like Pittsburgh in this one. Of course, if you want to watch the games, everyone, Sports Bar and Grill, Old Street, open till 12:30 a.m. Sports Bar and Grill Clapham's open till 11 p.m. Unlike Canada, where you have to like sign up and show your vaccinations and all this stuff, just go in. Come on, have some fun. Have some beers, have some wings. It's all going to be good. Join us and make sure you play on our DraftKings as well. We play DraftKings every Sunday, and we'll have some betting tips as well. Up in the week, just check out our website, NFLinlondon.com. Thanks for listening and watching, everyone. And Ryan and I'll be back next week for a couple podcasts as we start prepping for the playoffs. Thanks for listening.